and I'm going to demonstrate today how a building is set out. And this is an actual real building which is going to be produced and made as an extension to a listed building. So the layout of this building is laid out with wall plates, which gives the width of the building and the length of the building. So a client, even in medieval times, the carpenter would lay out in the frame to show him the size of building that he's going to have, and he can okay it. If he wants to make it wider, he'll have to have wider tie beams, which is what this is, and these are wall plates. Then once the client is happy with the layout of the building, exactly the same today, a client would approve an architect's drawing. In medieval times, everything was full size. So we now actually have a full size layout of a medieval building, but made as an extension in the modern day of today. But I'm going to set it out as if the medieval people, how they set it out. And they didn't use tape measures, they didn't use measurements, and it is all we're going to use is a piece of string. We're going to use a means of marking. I'm going to use a modern pencil. In medieval times they may have used some graphite, or they would use charcoal. And we're going to use dividers. And this is the crucial, accurate means of measuring in medieval times. And I will demonstrate it today, how accurate it is to set out today. And we will use a square and a hammer and some pins. All these tools were part of the medieval craftsman's toolkit. Having described that the wall plates are now being set out by the carpenters, and they're laid out level on blocks, and the distance apart is accurately placed parallel. Then the tie beam, which is this timber again, we mark the bottom of the tie beam where it's going to sit on top of the wall plates. Now the tie beam at the moment is laid flat, and we will be turning it over eventually, so these marks will sit on top of the wall plates, and we will set out a dovetail so that it will anchor into the wall plates. But at the moment, as we're setting out, we've marked both sides, the tie beam, as you can see with those black marks. And now we're going to use a rod, and we're going to place these rods on the outside mark, which is the overall width of the building, which is what we call the span. And we're going to use string now, and we're going to divide the span into 16 equal units. I'm now going to describe the setting out now with Victor, who's going to come and help me set it out. Okay, Victor, we now have established our rod, and it's the correct length of the span of the wall plates. We're now going to set it out at 16 units. So fix the string to the first nail, which is on the extremity, and under it, and hook it over that end. So the string is not taunt, it's just straight, but it's not tight. Then unhook that end, and we're going to fold it in half. Hold that end, hook it over the nail, and then put another nail in.
So not too much tension.
Which could be hopefully halfway, but at this stage it's not crucial. Then we're going to fold it again. So that's the first fold. We're now going to do the second fold. and put a nail in. Then we're going to unhook it, one of the folds. We're going to bend it again, fold it,
We've got it.
and we'll put another nail in, and we repeat it again one more time. So we'll unhook the line, fold it over,
All right.
and put the nail in. So we've now set out the span of the building into 16 units by folding the string 4 times. We then take off the string, and we're now going to use the dividers. So that is, we're going to do the next stage. No, we don't need the string anymore.
So we can take it off
Yeah.
entirely. It's going to be messy. Do you want the pins in?
Yeah. Because we're going to know where we are. We need to know where we are. We're now going to check with the dividers and space it out to see if we got the correct divisions of the unit. So we set the dividers to the nail, and then we pace it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we have a point there. The dividers have made a mark in the wood. Then we go from this end . 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we mark the point there. So we've got an error of roughly about 2 inches, which we need to adjust with the dividers to close that gap. So we go back to the beginning . And we roughly set it out with trial and error, just adjusting the dividers to see how we can correct the error. So we now have reduced our error by quite a bit by just moving the calipers very, very slightly. We can just adjust . Five, 6, 7, 8, and we're now down from 2 inches to 1/4 of an inch. That's how accurately you can work with these, and we just need to make a very, very small correction. Start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Spot on. So we're now exactly halfway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exactly right on the end. So it is spot on centre. So with the dividers now, we can accurately mark out the 16 units.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
Because we know that that's correct, that one there. So that's our mark.
So this one.
Yeah.
This one.
No, that one.
Oh, no, this one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we are going back a millimeter each time.
Yeah.
Do the bigger ones. Yeah, there is still a bit of margin for errors.
Very subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really subtle. I guess maybe with a bit of sharpening, it can be more precise.
So that should be right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
right on.
nice.
I will square over and use the knife. Yeah, square. And we can take the nails out.
Squares. Q.
In medieval times, this would be an oak rod, and a race knife would be used to make the marks. And this is Victor's race knife, which is a piece of bent over steel with a sharp blade, and the timber is scored, and they would have used charcoal to fill the score gap. And now we have marked the rod out into 16 units. So now we have a rod which is 1/16, which is 16 units of the span from either side of the wall plate, gives us a measuring stick, and you can see the marks we've made with the dividers down the rod. Now, as an alternative, we keep the dividers left set, and to measure out the wall plates, we could use the rod by laying it out, which we will do later, and set out where the wall plates are going to go. We could lay the rod down, and wherever the windows are going to go, we could mark it on the wall plate, or we could go down the wall plate with dividers, marking out the same units of measurement. So there are two ways of using the rod to do measurement. So we're now coming to a very important stage that medieval carpenters probably didn't use feet and inches, and didn't use any kind of tape measure. If they did have maybe a tape measure made of steel or something, but they used a rod, because when I've checked floor plans of houses, they all work out on plan to these 16 units of the span. So the carpenters either used a rod to set out, or they used the dividers. The next stage is we're going to set out the rafters for the building, the roof, which is from the tie beam.